Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Father-Son Packers podcast. Today, I am your host, Matt, because Tommy has exams coming up, and I am joined by Eli, Cousin Eli, Nephew Eli, whichever direction we're going on the family tree.
Yep.
And we're hoping that this take will last longer than the last one, where I made it about a second and a half before I totally blundered. So,
we're doing good here. We made it. We made it past the hard part.
Right. I just had to say the intro. But today we have a number of different topics to talk about, because even though we're not in the deepest, darkest part of the offseason, because we do have OTAs last week and mandatory minicamp coming up next week, so we'll get some news from that. But still, we are well past the draft and free agency, and now we're trying to figure out what all's going to happen. So, I had a beautiful sunny day here today. I don't know how it's there where you are on the East Coast. Now we got a coast to coast podcast again this time.
Yeah, it was good out here as well. We had a thunderstorm last night that cleared out some of the humidity. So I had a nice beautiful day. Went disc golfing with a bunch of friends. So it was a good day to be outside.
Oh, very nice. So I had a few last week with the OTAs that happened. We also had a bunch of interviews with players. And some news has come out. Maybe the first thing I'll start is not what came from all those interviews, but Christian Watson signed an extension. But on maybe it was Thursday of last week. 4 years, $110.5 million contract, including a $31 million signing bonus. They give him an average year average per year of $27.6 million, which will rank 15th in the league, according to Spotrac and Over the Cap. If it is structured like a typical Packers contract with all the guarantees only in the signing bonus, then he'll rank significantly lower in guaranteed money in the league among wide receivers. Now, of course,
for that,
go ahead.
For that cap, how does that factor in with the year that he has remaining on his contract? Is that the effective cap for this year, and then that $27.6 million will be what comes into play starting next year?
I still haven't heard the details on whether this is 4 years in addition to the upcoming year, or is that replacing that last year?
Okay.
But I suspect, I actually don't know I haven't heard the answer to that, because they haven't, all the details on the contract, I think they're released yet in terms of any other guarantees. So I think we're still a little bit wondering exactly what's going to happen there, when that new salary cap is going to kick in. Does that signing bonus will be spread over the life of the contract? We don't know what his year one salary of that contract is. So what the actual cap will be. We don't know yet if there are any void years, which would reduce the amount that signing bonus counts on every year of the cap until it all slams it at once at the end. But I've heard people say that it looks kind of like if this is the only guarantee, then it's sort of like a 2-year contract, and then we'll see. Deal. But I don't know if the real nuts and bolts have come out yet.
Got it.
But so and this of course set off a firestorm on social media, as almost everything does, with regarding whether this was a good deal for the Packers, a bad deal. You got the haters, actually on Packers and non-Packer fans, talking about how this is a total fiasco. But the big risk being that he's only played 48 of a possible 68 regular season games.
Yeah, and part of this is we're not paying him wide receiver 1 money. We're not paying him JSN money. This is closer to wide receiver 2 money, and he is maybe our wide receiver 1. Although we'll talk a little bit later about what the target share is and whether or not we're going to be continuing on with the Matt LaFleur wide receiver by committee approach.
There is no wide receiver 1.
There is no wide receiver 1, so maybe it makes sense that we're not paying out a wide receiver 1 contract. But as far as that goes, I'm fairly satisfied with it, especially with how well he performed down the stretch, which you're going to talk about shortly.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's a good deal for Green Bay. Though Tommy he said he's still thinking about it. This idea is, was it better to pay $27 million to Christian Watson, or to have paid the $17 million to Romeo Doubs and have another $10 million to do whatever you want to do with that money, for another, edge rusher, offensive lineman, whatever. So that's an interesting question that I will not actually delve into at all here because I don't really have a good answer. So I'm just going to throw that out there and just leave all of you just, out to dry with an answer. But one thing that I will say is that if you look at what Watson did this most recent year, this idea that, you're paying for future production, not past production. Well, but I'm still going to talk about the past anyway, just not the distant past. After he came back from his ACL tear last season, so it was like week 8 on or something like that. He missed the first 6 games. He was 6th in the league. So this is in the league for all wide receivers with at least 50 targets. So get rid of some of the noise you get with the low targets. And he had like 55 targets. So it's like everybody had at least as much as he did and a little bit, and even a little bit less. He was 6th in EPA per target, 4th in catch rate over expected. Only 1 drop last year. So if you're able to talk about how he's got bad hands, he drops the balls, like, no, that's just not true. These people are still going off of like a couple drops his rookie year that they have not been able to let go of.
Right, the same way we did with Devontae Adams back in right. The 2010s.
Exactly.
We thought he had stone hands for a while, but that just turned out to be untrue.
Right, even after it's no longer the case. So it's like it's a zombie take. It just won't die. And and the internet is a great place for zombie takes. Those things keep coming back to life over and over again.
Yep.
He was also 6th in PFF receiving grade, 5th in yards per route run, 4th in touchdowns per game, 2nd in yards per reception, 2nd in average depth of target. Now, the one thing, he was only 20th in yards per game, so there's a little down there. But if you think of like most of those things are like almost all like top 6, and he's getting paid as the number 15 wide receiver, from that perspective, it's a good deal. So from all the efficiency metrics, yes. So like the sort of counting accumulative metrics, and it's hard to say what's going to happen in a Packers offense under LaFleur.
But on the other hand, if we're high on efficiency and low on volume, then that could help reduce some of the injury risk that other people are concerned about with this contract. For like with him having only played 48 of the 68 possible games, if you're giving him low volume but getting excellent usage out of it, that could help mitigate that injury risk a little bit.
Yeah, and I suspect the Packers front office is thinking, okay, we've gotten past all of those soft tissue hamstring problems with the fixing the asymmetry he had that they found at the University of Wisconsin Medical Center, and so they think that's behind him. He had that ACL tear that was in some ways unrelated to that. It's not the same kind of thing, and he came back playing the best ball of his life. He looked stronger. He looked better in like the short and intermediate parts of the field. He just looked really good.
Well, speaking of that leg asymmetry, hopefully the Packers have gotten good at remediating that, because I saw you noted that Marshawn Lloyd spoke to the media, and one of the things that came out was his soft tissue leg injuries could be a consequence of asymmetric leg strength as well. He had an ACL injury as a freshman in college, and he's been targeting his off-season workouts to strengthen the weaker muscles on the leg asymmetry. So hopefully Marshawn Lloyd is in better shape this year as a result of that.
That would be fantastic, because we might be needing as much as we could get out of Lloyd, and much more than we have gotten in his career so far. And I keep going back to his college highlights, like, man, this looks great. Both at USC and USC, as it were. Yeah, and one of the concerns, unfortunately, when we drafted Marshawn Lloyd was his drop rate, and it's unfortunate that we haven't had real NFL reps to work that out. So we're mostly going in unknown whether that could still be an issue. How much he fumbles?
Right. But hopefully over 2 years of practice and watching what NFL games are like, he's had a chance to maybe get that trained out of him even without the on-field reps.
Hopefully, because he's made some big plays. I mean, his last big injury was on a fantastic wheel route last year. Because he has the ability to both catch the ball and run out of the backfield. Both look really exciting. As I mentioned, there was player availability this week, and the other thing that has exploded on the Packers sphere is the Micah Parsons interview, which was extensive, but I've only got a few highlights here.
Yeah, so go ahead. Go forward.
So he talked about his recovery timeline. It's kind of the big thing. Some of the take-homes, his ACL surgery was on December 29th, 2 weeks after the injury. And the other thing, one thing we found out is that he also had meniscus damage, and that was something we didn't know before. And it's unclear from his description whether they did a repair or just a cleanup of it, and did the repair having different implications for the recovery time than just the cleanup. He mentioned.
Now, would they have done that cleanup or repair at the same time as the other surgery? So it's likely it's still that December 29th. Because the Malik Neighbors injury, it sounded like they did his cleanup way after the fact.
Well, that was I think a case of some additional complications or something that just wasn't going right. I think this is a case of they did the whole thing at once. Having had an ACL injury with meniscus damage, they did it all at once, and that's the standard. Now, mine was 35 years ago. It actually was not long before your birthday.
Yep. That just mapped out.
I was at your house just like a couple weeks after the surgery. Actually, when you were born. So with that information, said there's a strict policy of a 9-month waiting period before resuming football activities. And obviously, rehab activities are always going on. And I don't know what exactly football activities means. It's sort of undefined. And I also don't know if that was his policy or the Packers policy. I think maybe it was Packers policy the way
it sounded like the Packers policy, because one person sounded like they went back and checked a few of the ACL injuries back to even Jordy Nelson, and even Jordy followed that timeline.
Okay, I hadn't seen that bit of investigative journalism, we'll call it. I don't know if that was a journalist who did it or not.
I also don't remember. It was on one of the podcasts I listened to this morning on the way to disc golf. I jammed a bunch to catch back up to speed.
So he's mentioned that he's 5 months in with 4 months to go. And that puts his start of on-field activities around September 29th, just before their Week 4 game against Tampa on the 4th. So he's going to be starting the season on PUP, requiring missing at least 4 games. Now, when exactly he's going to come back after that, how quickly that seems to be up in the air. I think Rob Domofsky said he's mid-October at the earliest, and maybe later. And so, and Micah had some quotes about looking at the long term goals and the big picture. So the goal for me is to complete the season. The goal has always been the playoffs. And he also said, the goal has always been not right now, but the longevity of my career. And I think they want, being the Packers, that approach. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at his brother, Terrence Parsons, also said that the timeline, you could think of it as similar to Christian Watson's last year, because he had a really late ACL tear. I don't know. I couldn't find how quickly he had the surgery, but his tear was the end of December, I think.
And did Watson practice for a couple of weeks after he was cleared, or did he go straight from cleared to playing?
I don't know. Yeah, I think he first played in week 8, which is after their bye last year. This would be, I think, Parsons should be back before the bye, so he won't get the advantage of the extra week of rehab
right.
without missing a game because they have a later bye. But there's some talk about whether it'll be like middle October and I think there was something from Rob Domofsky and other people about middle October being sort of a optimistic early view, which would put him around. You got what the Bears on the 11th, who's on the 18th? Oh, Cowboys, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, maybe the Lions. So, but I think the big thing is they're looking at being ready to be full strength for the playoffs when everything is going to be coming to a head.
I think it was Danny Heifetz on The Ringer was saying, like, they probably take into account when they think Micah Parsons is going to be healthy for when they schedule that Dallas game. And I don't know if my tinfoil hat is big enough to accommodate that take, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But also, things change with injury recovery, so it's like, and unless they know the Packers 9-month policy, then it's tough to for them to have insight on that, which they might.
Policy.
Yeah,
but that was news to me. I hadn't heard that with any of the other recovery notes from a variety of different ACL injuries. Actually, we had Watson and Gary and I guess Elton Jenkins as well. Yeah. So and so that nobody has let that leak out that his 9-month strict policy.
So I forget if you and Tommy had addressed this on a previous podcast, but like last season, the rushing was so reliant on Micah Parsons, and in some ways like played conservatively for like Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker, where they were not being sent as aggressively because we were under the impression like, oh, like Micah will take care of it. With him out for the start of the season, do you think we will see more aggressive development of the rookies than we would, like rookies and replacements than we would have if he were starting the season fully healthy?
That's a good question. I think one thing about when Micah was out last year, we had already lost Wyatt, who was
yes.
only interior pass rusher of any consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year Wyatt should be back. I think well in advance of that. His injury was, even though it's maybe kind of a nasty ankle injury, he's expected to be back well in time for the season. And we have Hargraves. We have two good interior pass rushers. And I forget when, and everybody's, and Lucas Van Ness looked like he'd improved last year. I can't remember how late in the year because he got set back and he'd come back too early and was playing better, forcing fumbles late in the season. That people are counting on, hoping he'll be better, and Sorrell should be improved, and we'll see about DDS. How he looks good, and I think he's been looking good so far. The dentist is gonna drill somebody in the backfield, I guess. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
So that's. Yeah, so I think we'll be better in the pass rush this year than we were last year, where it just vanished entirely. I mean, by the end of the year, Gary was giving us nothing,
right?
And which is why he's not on the team anymore. And I think Van Ness will give more than Gary gave last year, and we'll have Wyatt. We'll have two interior pass rushers hopefully for the whole season. Will give us a lot more inside because we didn't have any inside pass rush, and so then there was. Nothing to force the quarterback to like step aside, not be able to step up in the pocket out of the pass rush. So I think even while we're waiting for Parsons, it'll be much better than last year was without Parsons. It won't be as good. And will they scheme up? Because that's what they did the year before last. I felt like Hafley was being a lot more creative with blitzing linebackers and sending extra people because we had to produce pass rush. And then it was like we didn't get back to it after losing Micah. I had this theory I told Tommy, and I don't remember if I said it on the podcast. How much credit does Hafley really deserve for the defense? It failed a lot last year,
yeah,
especially on the stretch, and especially the playoff game. That was bad. And I have this idea that
the playoff game and the game against Baltimore like 2 weeks before that,
that maybe the reason that the defense looked so improved in 2024 was Campanile, who left to become the DC at Jacksonville, who immediately had a really good defense last year. And that's also why I say, like, Quay Walker had his best year of his career, I think, in 2024 and regressed in 2025. And Edgerrin Cooper as a rookie had a better year than he did last year. That's just my speculation.
Okay.
That we could actually see a defensive coaching improvement this year. It's in the cards, I think. Even though, everybody had a lot of, liked Hafley. And in part because he might actually make a better head coach than a DC, because he seems to have control of the room. But that's a question for the Dolphins to figure out now. Which they got a whole lot to figure out. So,
yeah. All sorts of things are happening there.
I don't think we'll be able to tell how good of a coach Hafley is this year, unless he's incredible. I don't think we'll be able to see the difference.
Yeah, and I'm also bummed that we're not going to see the full effects of Malik Willis this season, because I want to know if he's like a true NFL caliber quarterback too. But he's throwing to a bunch of Cowboys down there in Miami.
Oh yeah, I was looking at his numbers last year. They were incredibly good. I'm working on a metric for, basically all the positions, but including quarterback, and he's up there at the top of the list, both passing and rushing.
I would have liked to see him have a chance at the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle Dolphins rather than the couldn't even tell you who Dolphins.
I mean, it's like how many touches can Devon Achane handle before the wheels just come off? Because is he the only decent skill player they have now?
Yes. They might have a reasonable tight end. Now I'm trying to remember who, but I feel like they have a tight end of consequence.
Oh, anyway. Enough about the Dolphins.
Enough about the Dolphins. Greg Dulcich. There we go.
Oh, Greg. Oh, he's on there now. Okay.
Yeah. But we have two more pieces of news. Which
some more news before we even get to of course, the news is a big part of the
off season.
And this week especially, there's Josh Jacobs was back at practice while his legal troubles regarding a domestic violence allegation are apparently still under investigation. So this would surprise me a little bit that the Packers didn't wait to get more clarity on the case, unless they have clarity that they're not revealing, which they don't reveal anything. So, but the questions that were left, we don't know if the DA is going to file charges. They didn't drop charges. They just said, we're waiting for more evidence to come out to decide about pressing charges. But, and I thought they would kind of wait it out to see what happens. I don't know. It seems a little weird to me. Out there at this point.
And what they said was that it hasn't been a distraction and that it's good to get them out there, and hopefully that's true. And
yeah, I hear people say things like, well, when the football players are there at practice and the team, they're just focused on ball. So.
And then another 9-month ACL piece of news is Tucker Kraft, who has been getting glowing reviews from people for his continued recovery, athleticism during his recovery, work ethic during his recovery. So things are sounding good for Tucker Kraft to be rejoining the team during sometime in training camp. Matt LaFleur said maybe early training camp. And not that this is any bearing on reality, but he's surging up the tight end list for fantasy football. He's back into the top 10, so that's a promising sign that people are willing
Only
to,
top 10. You know what? Yeah, fantasy is kind of late to the party often with the movement.
Yeah,
because I think last year he could have been first team All Pro.
Yes,
And
yeah,
so yeah, that's my hope for this year.
yeah, and like sometimes with an ACL, it's like the year after is when they're at 100%. But with the way he's like, I know it's moving on a treadmill, and that's not running and pivoting, and
Yes,
then
the Drago
yeah,
workout that
yeah.
he's doing.
I
That
was
was
I was impressed.
brutal.
I'm excited for him to be back.
Yeah, that'd be that's going to be a lot of fun. I think. See, people are making all this noise about players that the Packers have lost. I think that the offense is full of high-end skill talent that
Yes,
could be really explosive this year.
I agree.
And then, but talking about like high-end talent on teams, so this is not Packers related, but I just thought I'd mention it. Rams adding Myles Garrett. It's like, just last year's Defensive Player of the Year. Just set the sack record. And they were already the Super Bowl favorite before that. And Aaron Donald is talking about coming back out of retirement as well.
That's the one that has me really riled up. It's like, oh, if we get doubled up with Myles Garrett pulling Aaron Donald out of retirement, that's gonna be a problem.
Okay, Packers, I sure hope you're right about, Aaron Banks, Sean Ryan, Anthony Belton, and Jordan Morgan. You better be right. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that team's gonna be. The Rams really don't want to lose to the Seahawks again.
No. There's going to be it's like how many offensive linemen do you have to keep in there for double teaming everybody?
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of offensive line, Phil, you like that segue? We'll go to the
Yeah.
OT. So there was a second OTA that was open to the press. So we got some reports from practice last week. Now that we're recording on Sunday, and there are little changes in some of the starters. So in the first OTA, the offensive line was from left to right. Morgan at tackle, Banks at left guard, Ryan at center, Anthony Belton at right guard, and Kennard at right tackle with Zach Tom still rehabbing. So this week they changed it up, and they started the rookie fifth round rookie, Jagger Burton. It's like I almost blanked his name. How can you forget Jagger? Starting at right guard with Anthony Belton moved out to right tackle, rather than Kennard at right tackle. And so they did switch it back. Kennard came in with the ones as well, and Belton moved back to right guard. So they essentially ran last week's offensive line as well, but not from the first snap. So that was very interesting. So of course you also think, okay, maybe Burton's looking really good, but then the second part is, are they going to be messing around with Belton again this year and moving him around?
Yeah,
moving around so he's not settled into one spot. Because like last year, it was like, okay, everybody's talking about, well, this guy looks like he's guard, he's like massive, a people mover, a road grader, but we will give him precisely 0 reps at guard at training camp and preseason and in the season until finally we're just going to throw him in there as a starter because of injury. We didn't give him any cross training at all. So, well, at least they're cross training him this year.
and then for Burton, he was doing second team reps as center, right?
He was right. I don't know how much he got at guard. I can't remember if he got much at guard at all in the first OTA we heard from, because mostly it's center. And I'm trying to remember, he got a center with the second line, and I don't know if he got a few with the first team as well, but not
Okay.
from the start. That was definitely Ryan. but he did come in at center. And I remember the twos last week as well, the first OTAs. He was at center. I think John Williams was at left guard next to him, and I forget the rest of the line that time. This time, the second line I think was very different as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have some.
Oh yeah, Dylan Wade, undrafted free agent. He was guard on the second line with Jacob Monk and Donovan Jennings out, so he was taking that spot. He was the only undrafted free agent to get reps with the twos. It sounded like the other ones were playing on the third team.
Yeah, and I think Glover was at right tackle, and John Williams played some center, which I hadn't heard. Of course, last year he didn't get to do any of this because he got hurt before or during the very first practices. And
I'm surprised he has time with Disclosure Days coming out in just a couple weeks, and he did the soundtrack for
that. He's a multi-talented dude. I mean, playing offensive line, at as well as doing movies dating back to the original Star Wars. Yeah, that's a serious Renaissance man there. And then for the other starters, the wide receivers, apparently they just don't care and they just rotate them in like crazy. So you can't take anything from who goes out there first. But it was Love and then Jacobs as a starter and running back. This week as opposed to last week, I think it was Pierre Strong.
Pierre Strong and Chris Brooks were taking turns. I guess Pierre Strong was out first.
Brooks probably got the first shot. That's right.
Okay.
And then Damian Martinez is back this week. He was out last week and playing. And then Musgrave is the starting at tight end because I think Dabney is still out. And Kraft isn't ready, and
Maryland is probably not ready. That was another UDFA, right?
Yes, so Maryland. I liked him actually, RJ Maryland, and then there's Wiley as well.
Right.
Who's probably been playing with the twos, but yeah, I think last week we only had like 2 tight ends or something. So that's the offensive side.
And with that, Bo Melton is back full time with the wide receivers. It sounded like Matt LaFleur said, like, yeah, that's where he's going to make his impact. We've got plans for him. So I don't know if this is just because he gets antsy if there are only 3 wide receivers. That's too close to having a normal roster. So he had to promote Bo Melton to balance it back out.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people like losing their minds over this. Like, what are we doing? Putting Bo Melton. It's like he was a wide receiver last year. He had cornerback next to his name on the Packers.com page, but he played precisely 0 regular season snaps on defense and played a lot on. I mean, really, what he is he's a special teamer, mostly who fills in when they need an extra player as a wide receiver. It has not yet filled in at corner, and They lost 1 corner and added 3. And they've lost two of their top 4 receivers and added 1. Really, is mostly a special teamer as well in Sky Moore. So this is
How old is Sky Moore now? Is he in his 30s?
No, I don't think he's that old. I'd have to. You could check. I could be wrong. I don't know what age he was when he first came out.
Yeah, I guess it just felt like he was on the Chiefs for a while. He's 25. My goodness.
Yeah, so maybe he's pretty young because I was thinking he only came out about like 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
Okay. He's one of those players who has like an unbelievable weeks 1, 2, and 3, and then vanishes for a while.
Yeah, I think he'll get. I hope he makes the team because I want like a real dedicated returner and somebody who does do punts and kick returns, and so if he does that and doesn't play a snap, actually if he does that and plays 0 snaps on offense, you know what? That is a monster win because that means our other receivers are healthy.
Yes. Yep. Totally fine with me. Good with that.
I'd be really good with that. And then on defense, we had another change on defense with another rookie coming in. This time, McClellan started at the nose between Brooks and Hargrave instead of Brinson, who was the first man up at nose tackle in the previous week.
Okay.
So that's encouraging if he's looking like he's going to move up to the top of that nose tackle depth chart. That would also, I think, free up Hargrave to do what he would like to do, apparently, based on his opinion of his time in Minnesota, to be able to rush upfield and get to the backfield and try to go after the passer and ball carriers. And then they did, the edge rushers, LVM's on one side, and then they kind of mixed it up on the other side. I think DDS got a couple reps with the ones, and he and Cox were the primary edge backups to LVN and Sorrell. But they may have started the defense in some like crazy nickel package where Edgerrin Cooper was at the left edge rusher opposite Lucas Van Ness, with Zaire Franklin as kind of the lone player actually lined up at linebacker, with the corners and safeties being the same, with Nixon, Bullard, Valentine, McKinney, and Evan Williams.
And it sounded like Zaire Franklin is wearing the green dot this year. So he was green dot at the Colts last year, and I think LaFleur said that he's continuing that this year. That they veteran presence, so he'll be the one getting the plays called into his headset.
Yeah, and he had good things to say about Gannon as well, saying when
yes.
he was early in his career with the Colts and was just playing special teams, and Gannon wasn't even his his position coach or group coach, but he was like really encouraged him and felt like really helped him out. So he was happy to be back playing with Gannon. So
nice.
Those things sound good. That a coach that the players want to play for. And then in the practice, the OTAs, so there are a couple interceptions, by I think McKinney had one, and Carrington Valentine had one. I think those were both off of Love. It's unclear if those were miscommunications with the receiver. Somebody's didn't stop or run the right route, and ball's just going right to a defender. But one of those might have been also a bad throw. It sounded like CC also rotated with the ones a little bit. You had something about how he performed?
Yeah, LaFleur likes his play, and obviously with a quarterback, it's tough to bring a rookie up to speed, just because the type of matchup you could face so quickly it's one of the worst, because you're kind of on an island relative to some of the other defensive positions. So even though he is getting some first team reps, it probably won't mean anything to the existing standings of Nixon Valentine, because we don't want a rookie covering Justin Jefferson in week one. No, so even if he does,
right, and we don't have Preston Smith to do it now either.
Right. So even if he does have a fantastic set of OTAs, which it sounds like he has been having, it probably won't have much bearing on who's on the depth charts going into the season.
Yeah, and it sounded like there was some good pass rush. So McClellan got into the backfield a couple times from defensive tackle. I don't know if he was at the nose when he did that. Just that he had gotten to the backfield in a couple plays. And Brendan Cox got, a pressure or a sack, whatever.
Yeah, would have been a sack if it were a padded play.
Yeah, he did that again last week, so he's making plays. I look at he always grades out well, actually, as a player, and and I think it was Lucas Van Ness. So here's one where I think Lucas Van Ness beat Jordan Morgan in a kind of a where they're isolated against each other on one of the plays. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, we have this discussion every year.
Where do you think about that particular situation? Is that good news, bad news?
Where on the stoppable force, movable object spectrum are we right now?
Yeah. So yeah, so the defensive line is doing some work.
Yeah.
And
Anything else for defense, or can I move on to special teams land
you
while
can move
Tommy
on
is
to
away?
our Oh, the other thing I just want to mention about that I saw Andy Herman mention that Benjamin St. Juste was doing some of the warm up drills with the team, and maybe not 100% with
Okay.
the rehab group. So maybe he's getting closer to participating. And then Damian Martinez was the only one of the players who missed last week with injury who fully participated this week. And then we
Got
can
it.
move on to how special our teams are.
Yep. So Trace Mack had a decent first week of OTAs doing the short kicks, but this past week moved back a little bit farther and went 4 of 9. Went wide left from 35, 38, and 42, and wide right from 46. And two of those misses were described as fairway crossing shanks. So sounds like it might not even gone out the back of the end zone. It might have left the side of the field.
Oh, that was like, it reminds me, was a kick from Mason Crosby years ago. It was just like, went so, or I can't remember what game it was. Maybe it was somebody else. It just went so far sideways.
Missed the net.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. It was like, yeah, it was somebody recently.
Which we played golf together, so this isn't an entirely foreign sight, but still not what we're looking for from our rookie kicker. So hopefully that's just a little bit of practice nerves, and that gets dialed in. That's why it's practice. And then other special teams. Oh, go ahead.
I was just say, then the question is it nerves, or are they asking him to try something out? And if they are, please don't screw up his mechanics.
Right.
By having him try something different. It's like, okay, let me fix your golf swing. And now
right. This sounds very familiar now. Yeah, just change your grip. Your grip's wrong. Fix your grip, and then you'll be able to hit it. No, that's gone.
No, I can't even hit it as well as I could before.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they are doing that, like, say something about it so that people know what's up, and they're not bagging on him for no reason if he's working on something valid that they told him to and needs the refs. Other special teams news, we had Savion Williams and Jacoby Keeney-James taking reps at kick returner. So Jacoby Keeney-James was a what rounder?
Oh, I don't remember. Was he 6? However,
I think he was a 6
years ago.
But that was Sky Moore was not at OTAs, so they're filling in while he's away or not present. So just some news is we do have people taking those reps, and we don't have to think too much about the final Romeo Dobbs kick return in that Bears game,
or Matthew Golden doing a spin move against air and getting laid out.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't see that.
Yep. Yeah. Get some dedicated people back there practicing it. Yeah. That's it for special teams. We don't need to dwell on that any longer.
Yeah. So since we had been doing all of the draft picks, Tommy and I finished going through all 6 of them. That I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to a couple of the outfits. So because we don't want to make this episode even longer if we can.
Mm-hmm.
Pick out a couple. So we each picked one special, one undrafted free agent that we thought was interesting, and I went with J. Michael Sturdivant, wide receiver. He spent his final year at Florida, and before that he spent 2 years at UCLA, and before that 2 years at Cal. Though his first year at Cal he hardly played at all. This is the exact kind of player that Matt LaFleur likes to add to the roster: size, speed, prospect. 9.96 RAS at 6'3", 207 pounds with a 4.40 40 time. So his RAS score for Green Bay for wide receivers under Gutekunst, he's second only to Christian Watson's 9.97. Got beat out by 0.01
Not
points.
bad.
And then I think there's room for that, a battle for that fifth wide receiver spot between him and Bo Melton and Sky Moore.
Yeah.
He's over 90. He's in the over 90th percentile for his 40 time, for his 10-yard split, for his vertical jump and broad jump, but he didn't do any of the agilities. He showed some nice hands in one of the OTA drills. I don't know if that's maybe a week ago, where he's like plucking a ball out of the air that was a little off target, got everybody kind of buzzing. Ooh, maybe there's something there. Now, he was not super productive in college, just a little bit off of what the Packers often do.
Now, was there competition at that wide receiver slot? Like, was there another big name person there?
At Florida, yeah, I can't remember who was there. I mean, it must have been somebody else in front of him. His best year was actually at Cal in 2022, where he had 755 yards and 7 touchdowns. He only had 412 yards last year, Florida. But he does seem to be decent at contested catches. He was 20th in the class in contested catch rate out of 102 wide receivers. And is also kind of a downfield threat, 21st in average depth of target. So I think they're throwing the ball deep and letting him go up and get it. Maybe that was the only role he had. Maybe that's one reason why he wasn't putting up big counting numbers. They weren't using him in other parts of the field.
All right.
So who are you thinking about?
I was taking a look at Nigel Kelly, D lineman, who is 6'5", combine weight of 256, and has enormous arms. Yes, this is 83rd percentile for wingspan at 82.5 inches, 93rd percentile for arm length at 35 and a quarter. He played 2 years at Miami. The second year was cut short by a knee injury, and then 2 years at UCF. When he was at UCF, he led the team in sacks in 2024 and had Big 12 honorable mentions both 2024 and 2025. His usage changed dramatically between years. So his first year at Miami, he was sort of like a dedicated. They'd bring him in on pass rushing downs. He had a very high negative play rate. I forget the exact metric that they use for pass rushers, where it's like percent of plays where you are recording a sack or a tackle for loss. But in that first year, he was very high, but then his usage changed, and he's now like a middle of the pack person, like kind of on the low end of what you would pick for an edge rusher. So he was at 0.85 for that, compared to Ruben Bain, who was at like 1.41 of getting those TFLs. And some of his problem is that he runs more like a giraffe than an emu. I don't know if that comparison is going to truly come across, but even when he gets like separation and breaks away from his job, he often has trouble chasing down the quarterback. So he doesn't have the agility that you might hope for once he gets the separation from whoever's blocking him. Just has trouble with those chase downs and working his feet to redirect in an effective way. But there's still huge potential for upside. With just a large person, had a lot of pass breakups, just can jump up, use those huge arms to block passing routes and deflect balls. John Meerdink at Acme Packing Company compared him to sort of an elongated Kingsley Enagbare, which is, I think, an exciting prospect. Like Enagbare was good enough. And if we can, if the Packers can work on sort of like the rawness of um, Kelly, then we'll be in might have a space at the bottom of the roster for this UDFA. Overall, his defensive grade was 75.9, which was 169th out of 852 edges. He had in his 2025 year, he had 26 pressures, which was 227th out of 852, and 36 tackles, which was 29th out of 852. So a lot of those, not tackles for losses, not sacks, but just getting tackles was a very effective player for that, which those long arms are very good for.
Yeah, he has the longest arms. I don't know if you mentioned any edge rusher under Gutekunst. And Erik Bari was himself kind of a long-armed edge rusher. He's maybe like the third or fourth longest arms been on the edge rusher on the Packers under Gutekunst. So if he's elongated from that, sounds like he's a little elongated from that. The longest arms and I think the third longest, highest wingspan under Gutekunst for edge rushers. So maybe if you use a little bit that kind of long arm pass rush technique, I think that's something that Enagbari could do as well.
And it's the kind of thing like when you get any leverage with those long arms, you can sort of like collapse it and move in ways that are unpredictable and easy to get around folks. Or he does also like a long armed chop to keep people from getting his hands on them. That's very effective. So they're not able to plant. And then he does get leverage well as using his legs, but then isn't always able to convert off of that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe something they'll try to develop over a couple of years because the edge room seems a little crowded anyway. And if Josh Sweat ever gets traded to the Packers, then that would be busy. There might be somebody looking at a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, definitely a project. So
probably looking at, and maybe both of these guys we talked about could be practice squad players in the beginning of their careers.
Yeah, which makes sense. All right, moving on to a somewhat silly segment for the summer. So this is seeing if we can learn anything based on June fantasy football projections. So we're taking the fake data that is fantasy football projections and then making it even more fake because it's 2 months before most people are drafting and getting involved with that. And we don't have the full data from what's going on in training camp and preseason and all the things that move those metrics. But it's June, so we're going to do this anyway. And a lot of what I was looking at was specifically how it would affect our wide receiver room. So going into this year, we had a slightly more stable looking receiver room than we have in years past. We only have the three main people, although Bo Melton getting promoted back to wide receiver makes this a little bit less clear, although probably not going to be at the same volume that the three that we're looking at today, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden are at. So the main two things I looked at was what the mean target share for alpha wide receivers was, and then also if we can predict usage of the wide receivers based on some of the stats that are available to us in these predictions. So like what do the fantasy football sharps think the roles of these receivers will be based on their predicted usage? And so for the mean target share of the top 20 wide receivers from 2016 to 2025 was 25.3%. So these are the top fantasy scorers are looking at approximately a 25% target share. And this past year we had a quite a large share of targets vacated from the room by Romeo Doubs leaving. Had the highest target share of Packers last year. And we also had Wicks, who had a smaller portion of that, but still left a lot of targets up for grabs. And those were distributed fairly equitably to Watson, Reed, and Golden, just based on Yahoo fantasy projections for 2026. The current projected target share for Watson is 19%, Reed at 17%, and Golden at 16%. So a very close spread for these folks. So we're once again, I think, looking at a LaFleur style committee. Although we're going to see who looks the most wide receiver one-ish is still going to be Watson, and we're going to talk about his predicted usage in a little bit. Matt, do you have any questions about this so far?
Yeah, so it looks like they must be, giving a fair amount to tight ends and running backs in terms of target share.
Yes,
as well as some to wide receivers 4 and 5, but probably and in some ways you think, okay, we lost a lot of targets to that with Dobbs, or opened up a bunch of targets with Dobbs and Wicks leaving, but we expect a lot more going to Kraft in a full season.
That is correct, and Kraft is now being predicted that full season workload. So he has. Let's see. We're currently looking at 95 targets for Christian Watson, and Tucker Kraft is being estimated for 87 targets. So the same as these wide receivers, essentially. He's right between Christian Watson and Matthew Golden.
Okay.
So I think that will I think that holds true with the rest of what we're doing, where we're still not going to see like a breakout wide receiver one. We're still going to be sort of spreading the ball around, making our offense unpredictable. I'm always not sure what the goal quite is with this. I mean, and obviously everyone suits each job a little bit differently, but. I think that we're going to see that ball get spread.
Right. We have guys with different body types, different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do they say about, what to get from each of those top 3 receivers?
So for Christian Watson, the next thing I looked at was I was trying to figure out whether we could look at their usage based on some of the stats, and the one that I found that was predictive in a noisy data set. So this is our value of 0.61 in the somewhat noisy data set of
I'd say an R value of 0.61 in football data is pretty good.
That's sort of how I felt. Is if there are some fields where this would be complete crap, but in football data, there's so much going on and so many variables that a 0.61 actually felt reasonably good. So this is catch rate as a predictor for average depth of target. So catch rate obviously can be influenced by catch rate over expectation. But that has a fairly low influence on this value. For the most part, how much you're catching is an indicator of where you're catching the ball. So I broke it up into 10 buckets. This was just where they statistically distributed. So this is deciles, which is like a quartile, I think, is what people are most familiar with. So this is deciles. It's groups of 10 instead, or 10 groups instead. Where starting with an ADOT of 6.2, you're expected to have a 71.4% catch rate. All the way down to an ADOT of 15.8 yards, you're expected to have a catch rate of 53.8%. So looking at Christian Watson, he has a 58.8% predicted catch rate. So he is looking at an ADOT of around 13 yards. So these are going to be uh, fairly long catches for Christian Watson, and a lot of his uh, stats related to that are like he is going to be getting the high value down the field targets. He and like therefore he is going to be getting higher yards than our other two wide receivers. So more of a fantasy value, closer to that wide receiver one number, but not quite going to have the usage that'll get you into that realm of CD Lambs and
Right, where he's
uh,
peppered with targets.
right. So, but going to use those targets fairly effectively. Now, Jaden Reed, 69.4% catch rate. These are going to be the short balls. So this is between the first and second, or like somewhere in the first or second decile. Um, Short slot, and then he's also predicted for 12 carries. So I think this is an unfortunate potential early indicator that we may be looking at more of those famed Green Bay Packers
Oh,
and arounds, jet
jet
sweeps,
sweeps
all those things that
and
we hate to love and love
wide
to
receiver
hate.
screens.
Yep.
So
Um,
yeah, could we? LaFleur, aren't you supposed to be scrubbing the playbook for all the stuff that didn't work well? Isn't that something you've dedicated the off season to?
yes. So hopefully Yahoo is being slow on that. Um, it is important to say that the year over year prediction of these stats or of performance from last year to this year is relatively low. Finally, Matthew Golden, 59.9% catch rate, and his ADOT, according to that catch rate, lines up almost 1 to 1 with his yards per reception, um,
Hmm.
which
So that's like no yak at all.
no yak, no yak or low yak. So these could be a lot of like edge of the field catches right on the sideline, or like a comeback route where you the defender's right behind you and can immediately get a quick tackle. But if it's 13 yards out, that's a first down. That's that's a valuable play. So Matthew Golden, yeah, it is predicted the lowest of these, but still fairly close to the others in terms of usage. And even if he's not getting those yards after the catch, still slated to have a decent year. And just one final thing was looking at preseason rankings of wide receivers within a team and where they were likely to math out in terms of final team placement. So if you are by ADP the wide receiver one, you have a 65% chance of being the team's actual wide receiver one, a 21% chance of being wide receiver two, and an 8% chance of being wide receiver three. For if you're preseason ranked wide receiver two, you have a 26% chance of being wide receiver one, 39 of being wide receiver two, and 23% chance of being wide receiver three. So a little bit more movement in those wide receiver twos. And then wide receiver three, um, you have a 10% chance of becoming that wide receiver one. So it's fairly rare to have those breakout seasons. And you obviously see these every once in a while, and they're the absolute fantasy football dream where you get like a Puka Nakua who has the breakout year, or like Justin Jefferson as a rookie kind of thing. But that is definitely the exception and not the rule. To the point where cases where it happened is just about a quarter of the examples of the other ones we've seen. So just
Yeah.
a little bit of I like to be involved in the fantasy football. I know it's tough to bring into play in the regular season because the real football stats are so numerous and easy to talk about. But in off season, when we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, it seems like a good time.
Right. There's not much information coming out. There's only like 2 off-season practices that have had the press at them. So there's not a whole lot of information coming out there. I mean, yeah, we could spend people probably spending multiple episodes just talking about maybe they'll sign Josh Sweat because that's the part of the season we're in.
Right. And I think the answer is no. I think we finally got an actual no on that one.
Yeah, there was a no. There's a strong no. And then people's story articles like, but this might change.
Damn it.
So it hasn't actually gone away. Like I said, zombie rumors.
Yeah. Those zombie rumors.
Anyway, so it's got a little bit of everything in today's episode. A little bit of a hodgepodge, but that's what the off season is for. So just once again, this has been the Father-Son Packers podcast with a guest appearance by Eli. Thanks a lot, Eli, for filling in while Tommy is busy in the deep diving into I don't know if it's like statistics class. I don't know what final he's got, but some data science.
You're welcome. Always happy to be here. Always happy to talk Packers.
Fun to hang out. And,
we didn't even make fun of the Bears for maybe moving to Indiana.
Yeah, that's going around all over. I feel honestly, I feel bad for the city of Chicago. It's like this is just ridiculous. But if they have ever made any fun of the Jets or Giants, anybody out there who's called them the Jersey Giants or the Jersey Jets, well, yeah,
right.
They've got the Indiana Bears heading their way.
I also did look at a map, and the city of Hammond is between Chicago and the Indiana city of East Chicago. So it's like, to me, that feels slightly less egregious than if it were purely out, but there is an East Chicago, Indiana. So
between Chicago and Chicago.
Yeah.
As it were. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of no different from the Bears and Jets playing in New Jersey, and that people like to say that there's actually only one football team in New York, and it's the Buffalo Bills.
The Bills.
So yeah, it's always fun to make fun of these situations, but it is kind of weird to think about.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is why those little scraps of paper that say it could say you're an owner means so much, because your team's not going to pick up and leave because they're not getting the deal they want.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks everybody for joining us. This has been the Father-Son Packers podcast. And until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.